Are postal workers shooting themselves in the foot with further strike action?
Postal workers are going on strike. Are they shooting themselves in the foot? Alan Johnson, of course, led the Postal Workers Union for 3 years. Are they shooting themselves in the foot with this action?
Two things come to mind. A, we live in Beverley, which is the edge of a quite rural community where people are quite disadvantaged in terms of their ability to communicate. The other thing that goes to my mind, I've just recently finished working in Birmingham, been there for 6 years. During that 6 years, post offices closed all around me, so to the point where I was working was a 25-minute walk into the middle of town to the nearest post office. And carrying a heavy object, that's not funny.
Nigel Farage.
Yeah, I agree with the gentleman who made the point about the social service. I mean, the universal postal service, the fact that post offices matter in communities, I rather agree with that. I think it's a very important part of this country. It's been there, you know, for 150 years.
With the implication
plus.
It should be subsidised. Are you in favour of that?
However, well, let me just tell the untold story. And the untold story that, of course, these parties will not talk about is that as a result of 2 European Union directives, one of which was proposed, one of which was proposed by a Labour MEP, I know you don't like that fact, but it's true, the Royal Mail lost its ability to have a monopoly on the profitable part of its business. Because of that, we've seen great decline. Because of that, we've seen thousands of post offices closing all over the country. So I feel sorry for people working in the post office because of what's been done to them, but we are where we are. And the questioner asked, would they be shooting themselves in the foot? I would have thought the timing of this, right now, with the big Christmas contracts about to be booked, I would think it would be absolutely suicidal if there is a prolonged industrial action by the post office workers. It would be a catastrophe for them, and I urge them, difficult though their plight is, to sit round the table, thrash out a deal, and not to go on strike, because they'll be the losers.
Is it really necessary to imprison someone for letting a 3-year-old smoke when our prisons are already close to full capacity?
18 months does seem a long time. Is it the first stage in imprisoning parents of smoking in front of their children?
Nigel Farage.
Well, I'm probably the only smoker on the panel, so it's probably a good one to answer. Yeah, I mean, they're demonising smoking in every way, and I think in most cases most unnecessarily. However, this is slightly different. Putting a lighted cigarette in the hand of a 3-year-old clearly is a bad and stupid thing to do. No doubt it was to make a film to show off to his mates or something like that. I don't know. I wouldn't have thought 18 months in prison was the answer, especially when we read in our newspapers every single week of people who've committed violent crimes, sexual crimes, have served pitifully small terms in prison and come out and re-offended. So the real answer is we've got an increase in the criminal base, Norman, in this country. Maybe some of them shouldn't be there, but there is a big increase in the criminal base. And personally, I have to say, I feel that we need to build a lot more prisons and put a lot more violent offenders away for far longer than we're doing right at the moment.
Point from you, sir, and then we're gone. Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to ask, why is it after 8 years we're still playing catch-up with troops in Afghanistan?
This is in the light of this week's announcement by the Prime Minister that 500 more troops were going to go to Afghanistan as long as they... Well, there were various caveats. If you're the Prime Minister and you're sending 500 more people out to Afghanistan, to say the condition is if we've got the right equipment, it does suggest that there's a possibility of sending without the right equipment, or they've previously been sent without the right equipment.
Because he wants
it's a fatuous thing to say.
No, because you need to assure the British public that if we're sending another 500 out there, we send them out there with the equipment they need.
OK, man in the second row at the back there. No, in the second row at the back. Yes, you, sir.
I thought history would have taught us something. We already got 9,000 troops in Afghanistan, another 500. The Russians had 250,000. And after 10 years, 10,000 were dead and 30,000 were injured, and they still... Then nothing happened about Afghanistan.
And your view is what, as a result?
My view, I think we should pull back and get our troops back.
All right. No. Nigel Farage.
Isn't it amazing that the government announces there are 500 more troops to go to Afghanistan at the very same day that they announce that they're going to slash the training that we give Britain's brilliant and great value for money territorial army. I just can't believe it. I mean, we couldn't, Alan, we couldn't have fought the Iraq war without the territorial army, thousands of whom took part in it. But that sums up this government. You ask for more and more and more of our servicemen, whilst you give them less and less and less. And when I listen to General McChrystal saying we need 40,000 more, provided we have more people, we can do it, it all, to me, begins to have shades of Vietnam, frankly, where the argument there was if we bombed more heavily, or say we, the Americans, if we bombed more heavily and put more people in, we'd win. In the end, we didn't. If you're killing the Taliban in Afghanistan, well, that's fine, but there are training camps over the border in Pakistan. I think we're involved in something, and I agree with the gentleman, history shows the Russians, the British have all failed dismally in Afghanistan, and I think we need to go to the Americans. Gordon Brown needs to go to the Americans and say, look, this isn't working. Let's have a short, sharp timetable for withdrawal.
We've got to fight the war much more effectively, and I completely agree with everyone who says, let's equip the troops properly and let's not send troops ill-equipped, because that's just monstrous to do that kind of thing to brave people. But there is a purpose behind this war, and I hope people in this country can remember that.
I mean, OK, I understand the argument, but would you then advocate we fight them in Pakistan or fight them wherever else they are in the world? I mean, are we engaged in a war against Islam here? Is that what we're talking about? What is this? Well, what is this?
Joan Bakewell.
I think this is a war that cannot be won.
Yes, exactly.
I think it cannot be won.